My name is Morgan Vance. For the last decade, I've watched my sister, Sloane, build a castle on a foundation of lies. She stood in the middle of that marble-floored palace, smiling for cameras, tilting her head just right, holding a glass of champagne she barely drank from. She looked like a queen. People loved her. They always did. They loved the image, the performance, the carefully curated life she posted online with captions like "hard work pays off." But there was a problem with that narrative. A big one. I paid for every single glass of champagne in that room. Not that anyone knew. The house alone cost more than most people in that room would make in a lifetime. The private chef in the kitchen, the security team by the doors, the designer dress clinging to my sister's body. I paid for it all. And for years, I didn't say a word. I sat in the shadows, let her have the spotlight, let her play the hero of our family. I thought silence was the same thing as peace. I thought that if I kept the money flowing, if I kept the problems solved, maybe one day she'd realize what I was sacrificing. I was wrong. Silence isn't peace. Silence is just an invitation for people like Sloane to take more. And last night, she didn't just take. She crossed a line that she didn't even know existed. She took something from me, something small, something that looked like trash to her untrained eye, and she threw it away to humiliate me. She wanted to prove I was unstable. She wanted to prove I was broken. She had no idea that by throwing away that little plastic bottle, she wasn't just insulting me. She was destroying a piece of classified military hardware worth $1.2 million. She was committing a federal offense. She was dismantling her own defense before the war had even started. And I just sat there, watching her do it, knowing that in 24 hours, the world she built on my dime was going to come crashing down around her ankles. The air in the dining room was thick with the smell of expensive perfume and roasted duck. It was one of those nights that felt designed for a magazine spread, the kind of event where every single detail was agonized over for weeks. The floor-to-ceiling windows in the living room overlooked the city lights, a glittering reminder of the wealth that permeated every corner of my parents'. No, scratch that, my house. It was strange, sitting there, knowing the legal deeds were in a secure lockbox 3,000 miles away, paid for by blood, sweat, and tears that these guests couldn't even imagine. I sat at the far end of the table. It was deliberate. I wanted to be out of the main light, away from the central hub of admiration that swirled around Sloane. My outfit was plain, neutral colors, a simple cut that screamed forgettable in a room full of designer labels. I wore no jewelry, no makeup beyond what was necessary to not look sick, which tonight was harder than usual. I kept my hands still in my lap. That part took effort. A few guests glanced my way, their eyes scanning me, trying to place me in the hierarchy of the room. I saw the moment they decided I wasn't worth the time. That flicker of dismissal, that was fine. It made things easier. Invisibility is a superpower if you know how to use it. My mother leaned over from across the table, her face tight with that specific kind of maternal anxiety that's more about appearances than actual concern. "Morgan, sit up a little," she whispered. "You look off." "I'm fine," I said. My voice was flat, controlled. I didn't offer an explanation. She didn't believe me, but she also didn't push. She rarely did. Pushing required energy, and she preferred to save her energy for Sloane. Across the room, Sloane raised her glass. The light caught the champagne perfectly, a golden sparkle that seemed to emanate from her very skin. "Everyone, thank you for coming tonight," she announced, her voice projecting with practiced ease. "This means so much to us." I almost smiled. It was a dark, internal amusement. The caterer had been paid from my account. The staff, the wine, the security team standing by the perimeter, mine. Even the foundation she was pretending to celebrate tonight, the seed money for her glorious charitable venture, it had all come from my operational pay. She didn't know that, or maybe she just refused to acknowledge it. My dad cleared his throat like he wanted to say something, then didn't. He just nodded along like always, the passive observer in his own life. Sloane continued, her smile widening. "It's been such a journey building everything I have, and I couldn't have done it without the support of my family." That got applause, polite, enthusiastic applause. I picked up my water glass and took a slow sip. My fingers stayed steady, but only because I was focusing on it. Timing mattered. This wasn't the time to react. This was the time to set the stage. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a small plastic bottle. No label, cheap looking, the kind of thing people assume you bought from a gas station or a shady alleyway. That was intentional. In a world of crystal and gold, this piece of generic plastic stood out like a sore thumb. I placed it quietly on the table next to my plate. No one noticed at first. The clinking of silverware and the hum of conversation covered the small sound. I unscrewed the cap. That's when Sloane saw it. I felt her gaze snap onto me like a laser beam. Her eyes locked onto the bottle like it offended her personally. She stopped mid-conversation, still smiling for the person in front of her, but her expression shifted just enough. A tightening around the eyes, a flare of the nostrils. She couldn't help herself. The perfectionist in her couldn't abide the imperfection at her table. She walked over, slow, confident, her heels clicking softly on the marble. She moved like she was about to fix a minor inconvenience, like straightening a painting. She leaned down slightly, looking at the bottle like it was something disgusting she'd found on the sidewalk. "What is that?" she asked. Her voice was light, but there was an edge to it. I didn't look up right away. I stared at the bottle. "Medication," I said. Her smile widened, but not in a nice way. It was the smile she used when she was about to cut someone down. "Medication," she repeated, louder this time, enough for people nearby to hear. A few guests turned their heads. The drama was starting. They loved it. I kept my voice even. "Yes." She reached out and picked up the bottle without asking. I let her. I watched her manicured fingers close around the cheap plastic. She turned it in her fingers, frowning. "No label, no prescription. Seriously." "It's handled," I said. She let out a short, sharp laugh. "Handled, Morgan?" She turned slightly, addressing the room now, playing to her audience. "This looks like something you'd find in a trash bin behind a pharmacy, or maybe in a police evidence locker." A couple of people chuckled. Nervous, polite chuckles. I could feel my pulse picking up, a steady thrum against my ribs, but my face didn't change. I had spent years in high-stress environments learning to control that reaction. Panic was a luxury I couldn't afford. "Sloane," my mom said softly, trying to be the peacemaker. "Just let her be." "No, Mom," Sloane cut in, her voice bright and reasonable. "We have guests here, important guests." She lifted the bottle slightly like she was presenting evidence in a courtroom. "We're hosting a high-end event and she's pulling out random sketchy pills at the table. It's inappropriate. It's embarrassing." "It's not random," I said. My voice was low, calm. She ignored me. She was on a roll now. "This is exactly what I mean," she continued, looking around the room. "You try to elevate things, you try to build something beautiful, and someone always drags it down. Someone always has to make it about their issues." There it was, the narrative she had been spinning for years. Sloane the builder, Morgan the burden. Sloane the light, Morgan the shadow. I met her eyes. "You're overreacting," I said. That's when her expression dropped, not fully, just enough. I had challenged her in public. That was a sin she couldn't forgive. She stepped closer, invading my personal space. "You don't get to embarrass me like that," she whispered, a hiss that was meant only for me. I looked at her, really looked. There are moments when you expect to feel anger or panic or something loud. I didn't feel any of that, just clarity, a cold, crystalline understanding of what was about to happen. "You shouldn't have done that," I said. She rolled her eyes, throwing her head back dramatically. "Relax, and if it's so important, go fish it out of the trash." She turned, and in one fluid, practiced motion, she walked 2 steps to the side, right where a decorative trash bin had been placed near the wall. And she threw it in. Not a toss. A hard, deliberate drop. The plastic hit the inside with a sharp sound that cut through the music. A loud, echoing clatter. Silence followed. The guests froze. The clinking of forks stopped. She turned back, brushing her hands together like she'd just cleaned something off. "Honestly," she said loud enough for everyone, "look at that trash. Were you seriously going to take that at my event?" No one spoke. I didn't move. The silence in the room was heavy, suffocating. She stepped closer, lowering her voice just enough to make it feel more personal but still public. "You're done here, Morgan. You're making a scene. You need help." I looked at her. I held her gaze. Do you even know what that was? I asked. She crossed her arms. I know what it looked like. Cheap, unregulated, probably illegal, right? She tilted her head, her eyes gleaming with triumph. Or what, Morgan? You're going to tell me it was something special, some magical vitamin. I didn't answer right away. I just held her gaze. And that's when something shifted. Not in the room, in her, just a flicker. A second where she wasn't completely sure anymore. A primal instinct screaming at her that she had made a mistake. I spoke quietly. That dose was scheduled. Now it's gone, she scoffed. So take another one, she mocked. I don't have another one here. Then that's your problem, she sneered. I nodded once. That's correct. She smiled again, satisfied, like she'd won a great victory. Good, she said. Then maybe you'll finally stop bringing your issues into my life. Maybe you'll finally realize that you don't fit here. I stood up slowly, not rushed, not dramatic, just enough to change the angle. People were watching now, not laughing. The mood had turned. I looked at the trash bin, then back at her. You just threw away something you don't understand, I said. She shrugged. I understand enough. It's garbage, just like your behavior. No, I said, you don't. My vision stayed clear for now, but I could already feel the early signs. Subtle, easy to miss if you didn't know what to look for. A slight tremor in my peripheral vision. A pressure behind my eyes. 48 hours. That's how long I had before things started to break down. Not guesswork, not theory. Measured, documented, real. The countdown had started the second that bottle left her hand. I picked up my coat from the back of the chair. I felt the weight of the room on me. The pity, the judgment, the relief that I was leaving. You're leaving? My dad asked, finally speaking up, his voice weak. Yes. Sloane laughed, a bright, happy sound. Of course she is, that's what she does. She runs away, she always has. I didn't respond to that. I looked at my mom for a second. She looked confused, a little worried, but she still didn't say anything. That part never changed. She would watch her daughters tear each other apart and say nothing, just to keep the peace. I turned back to Sloane. You should have asked before you acted, I said. She waved a hand dismissively. Please don't make this dramatic. Just go, get some help. We'll handle things from here. I held her gaze one last time. Then I walked past her. No raised voice, no scene, just a decision. Right before I reached the door, I stopped for half a second. Not to turn around, just to breathe. Because I knew exactly what came next. And none of them were ready for it. I stepped out into the cold night air. The door closed behind me, cutting off the noise and the light. I didn't stop walking until I reached my car. My hands were still steady, but I could feel the pressure building under my skin. Not panic, not yet. Just a quiet reminder that the clock had started. I got into the driver's seat, closed the door, and sat there for a second in the silence. Then I let out a slow breath, because none of this was new. Sloane didn't wake up that night and suddenly become that person. She'd been like that for years. The only difference now was that she had finally crossed a line she couldn't walk back from. I started the engine, and as I pulled away from the house I paid for, I thought about how it got to this point. Because people like Sloane don't just take, they learn it. They get comfortable with it. They expect it. They think the world owes them a living because they're pretty or charming or because they've managed to surround themselves with people who don't ask questions. But to understand the revenge, you have to understand the history. You have to understand the war that was fought long before this battle. Back when she was in college, she had a different image. Not the influencer version. Not yet. She played the role of the perfect daughter. Good grades, polished, always dressed right, always saying the right thing in front of the right people. Our parents loved that. They told everyone about her. She's going places, my mom would say, beaming with pride. They never said that about me. I had already left by then. No big send-off, no party, no proud speech. Just a quiet decision and a one-way ticket. I joined a military biomed unit most people don't even know exists. Officially, it's logistics and support. Unofficially, it's where they send people to handle things that don't make it into reports. High-risk environments, experimental exposure, rapid response treatment protocols. We operated in the gray areas, the zones where biology and warfare blurred. You don't sign up for that by accident. and you don't talk about it when you come back. The pay was complicated. On paper, it didn't look like much. It was military pay, standard grades. But off paper, the hazard pay, the retention bonuses, the special duty allowances, it was enough to change everything. I didn't care about the money. I cared about the mission. But the money was there, piling up in accounts I barely checked. I sent most of it home, not because anyone asked, but because I knew what the numbers looked like. My parents were drowning. They were living in a house they couldn't afford, driving cars they leased, trying to keep up appearances for Sloan. My dad had medical bills from a surgery that insurance only partially covered. Credit cards were stacked on top of each other like a house of cards. Sloan never saw that, or maybe she did and chose not to care. Either way, I handled it quietly. Month after month, transfers went through. No announcements, no explanations, just money showing up when it was needed. I became the ghost in the machine that kept their lives running. At some point, a trust account got set up supposedly to manage family assets. That was the phrase they used. For the future. In reality, it became a buffer, a place where my income flowed through before it got distributed. Sloan had access to it. That was the first mistake. Or maybe it was my mistake for trusting her. I didn't notice at first because I wasn't looking for problems at home. I was focused on staying alive somewhere else. I was breathing air that wasn't air, eating food that tasted like cardboard, watching friends lose parts of themselves to invisible enemies. I didn't have the bandwidth to audit my sister's spending habits. It took one random audit for everything to come into focus. I was reviewing transaction logs between deployments, a routine check to make sure nothing unusual was happening with my financial footprint. I was in a tent in a desert that had 3 different names depending on who you asked, looking at a screen that was flickering with dust. Then I saw it, a withdrawal that didn't match any scheduled expense, then another and another. Same account, different amounts, always clean, always labeled like normal spending. Home maintenance, family support. But the timing was off. Too frequent, too controlled. The amounts were too round. That's when I started digging. The trust account wasn't just covering bills anymore. It was funding a lifestyle. High-end shopping sprees in Milan. Travel to resorts I couldn't pronounce. Private events with celebrity guest lists. And then I saw the biggest one. A wire transfer large enough to stand out even in that account. Destination, a luxury auto dealership. I stared at the screen for a few seconds. The heat of the desert seemed to press in on me. I pulled the receipt. Vehicle, custom sports car. Buyer, Sloan Vance. Secondary name listed on the paperwork, Rick Sterling. I leaned back in my chair. Rick. I'd heard that name before. The guy with the perfect haircut, expensive watch, and nothing real behind it. The kind of person who talks about opportunities without ever building anything. Sloan had been posting photos with him for months, smiling, posing, acting like they were building something together. Turns out I was building it. I closed the file and opened another one. Transaction history going back 6 months, then a year, then further. The pattern was clear. She wasn't just spending. She was draining, slow enough to avoid attention. Fast enough to keep up appearances. She was bleeding me dry to fund her fantasy life. I didn't call her. I didn't call anyone. I waited. Because timing matters more than emotion. I knew that from my work. You don't strike when you're angry. You strike when the target is exposed, when the geometry of the situation is in your favor. A few weeks later, I came home. No warning, no announcement. I walked into the house like I still lived there. Sloan was in the living room scrolling through her phone, legs crossed like she was in a photo shoot. She looked up, surprised. The mask slipped for a fraction of a second before sliding back into place. "Oh," she said, "you're back." "Yeah." She went back to her screen. "How long this time?" "A while." She shrugged. "Cool." That was it. No hug, no questions, just acknowledgement. I was a piece of furniture that had been moved back into the room. My parents came in from the kitchen a minute later. My mom smiled, but it was tight. "Morgan, you didn't tell us you were coming." I wanted to check on things. My dad nodded. "Everything's fine." I looked at him, then at her, then back at Sloan. "Is it?" I asked. Sloan didn't even look up. "If you're about to start one of your weird interrogations, I'm not in the mood." I'm not interrogating you, I said. I'm asking about the trust account. That got her attention. She slowly lowered her phone. What about it? She asked. I reviewed the transactions. She rolled her eyes. Of course you did. You're so obsessed with control. You bought a car, I said, with money that wasn't yours. She let out a short laugh. It's a family account, Morgan. No, I said. It's funded by me. My mom stepped in, her hands raised. Morgan, we don't need to do this right now. Yes, we do, I said. Sloane stood up. She was in her element now. Conflict she could control. You're being dramatic, she said. It's just money. It's not just money. It is to me, she shot back. And last time I checked, you're not exactly struggling. You don't even use it. You live in. Bases. You don't need Laubau tins. I held her gaze. You used operational pay, I said. Do you understand what that means? She crossed her arms. I understand that you go away for months, come back acting weird, and expect everyone to tiptoe around you. That's not what I expect. No, I said. You expect control. My dad sighed. He looked tired. Morgan, your sister has been taking care of things here. I almost laughed. Taking care of things, I repeated. Yes, he said. She's been handling the house, the bills. With my money, I said. Sloane stepped closer. At least I'm here, she said. At least I'm not off playing soldier and coming back broken. There it was, simple, direct. The knife in the gut, she didn't even hesitate. My mom looked uncomfortable but didn't correct her. You think you're helping? Sloane continued. You disappear, send money, and act like that makes you some kind of hero. I never said that. You don't have to, she said. You walk around like you're above everything, you judge us. I stayed quiet because she wasn't done. You're not special, Morgan, she said, her voice dropping. You're a medic, that's it. And honestly, you look like you can barely handle that. My dad nodded slightly, not fully, but enough. A small, unconscious agreement. And let's be real, Sloane added. Half the time, I think you're just dealing with some kind of trauma you won't admit. You're unstable, you're unpredictable, and we're the ones who have to deal with it. I looked at all three of them. Then I reached into my bag and pulled out a document. I placed it on the table. What's this? My mom asked. Proof, I said. My dad picked it up first. His eyes moved across the page, then stopped. The color drained from his face. What is this? He asked. The mortgage, I said, paid in full this morning. Silence, the kind of silence that sucks the air out of the room. This is fake, Sloane said. It's not. You don't have that kind of money. I held her gaze. Clearly, I said, I do. She looked at my dad. Say something. He didn't, because he was still staring at the paper. He was doing the math, realizing that while Sloane was spending the family's future on cars and parties, I had been securing their present. All that time, all those months, all those transfers, and not once did I say anything. Not once did I ask for credit. Not once did I correct the story they were telling themselves. Sloane let out a sharp breath. This doesn't change anything, she said. You're still the same. It changes everything, I replied. No, she said. You're still broken. I didn't argue. I just picked up my bag, turned, and walked out of the room. No one followed me. That was normal. I went upstairs to the guest room. I closed the door behind me and locked it. Then I sat on the edge of the bed and let the silence settle. Because now I knew two things for sure. One, Sloane wasn't just careless with money. Two, she wasn't going to stop. People don't walk away from something that easy, especially when they think they're entitled to it. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thin tablet. Standard issue for my unit. Most people would think it's outdated. It's not. I powered it on. A secure interface loaded instantly. Then I opened a file labeled residential monitoring. I installed the system 2 years ago, not because I didn't trust my family, but because I didn't trust the situations around them. High-value assets attract attention. Financial instability attracts worse. So I built a safety net, discrete cameras in common areas, audio capture tied to movement triggers, everything encrypted, everything routed through a secure channel that doesn't touch civilian networks. Legal, yes. Documented as a protective measure tied to my clearance. Explained to my parents as home security upgrades. They agreed. They just didn't ask questions. I tapped into the living room feed. My mom was there quietly wiping down the counter. I switched to the study. That's where I saw them. Sloane was sitting at the desk. Across from her, someone I didn't recognize at first. Mid-50s, expensive suit. He had a folder open in front of him. I adjusted the audio. "We just need consistency," the man was saying. "If you want this to hold up, everything has to align." Sloane leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. "It will," she said. "She's already unstable. Everyone sees it." The man nodded slightly. "That helps, but documentation is what matters. Statements, behavioral patterns, medical framing." I didn't move. "Can you get that?" he asked. Sloane smirked. "Please, she barely talks to anyone. All I have to do is frame it the right way." "Good," he said, "because once this is filed, it moves quickly." I zoomed in slightly. "What exactly are we filing?" I said under my breath, even though I already knew the answer. Sloane leaned forward. "A petition for incapacity," she said. "Incompetence, whatever you want to call it." The man flipped a page in the folder. "If the court agrees, you'll be granted control over her assets, medical decisions, financial authority, full takeover." "And she can't fight it?" Sloane asked. "She can try," he said. "But if we establish a pattern, erratic behavior, possible substance issues, signs of cognitive decline, it becomes very difficult." Sloane smiled. "Substance issues won't be a problem. She's already taking weird unmarked medication. I'll make sure that gets documented." My grip tightened slightly on the tablet. "It needs to look credible," the man warned. "No obvious gaps." "It will," she said. "Trust me." I leaned back slightly in my chair, still quiet, still listening. The betrayal wasn't a surprise. The method was. They weren't just trying to write me out of the will. They were trying to erase my autonomy. "Once the petition is approved," the man continued, "she can be placed in a care facility." Sloane didn't hesitate. "Not one of those high-end places," she said. "I don't want her comfortable." The man glanced at her. "That's not the primary concern." "It is for me," she said. "I want her out of the picture completely." He closed the folder halfway. "You understand this is serious. You're effectively removing her legal autonomy." "She's already lost it," Sloane replied. "I'm just making it official." I felt something shift in my chest. Not emotion, just confirmation. The man tapped the folder. "We'll need signatures from family members, supporting statements." "That's easy," Sloane said. "My parents already think she's unstable." I thought about earlier, the silence, the nod. Yeah, that tracked. "And the financial side?" Sloane asked. "Once you're appointed," he said, "everything transfers under your management. Accounts, property, assets." She nodded slowly. "And there's no delay." "Minimal," he said. "Especially if the situation appears urgent." Sloane leaned back again, satisfied. "Good, because I don't want to wait." The man studied her for a second. "Why now?" She shrugged. "Because she's getting in the way, and honestly, I'm tired of pretending she matters." I didn't react. I just kept watching. "She comes in, acts like she owns everything. Questions me like I owe her something," Sloane continued. "I don't." The man didn't respond. "She's been useful," Sloane added. "I'll give her that, the money, the house, all of it, but that's done." Useful, that was the word she chose. "Once this goes through," she said, "I'll handle everything, clean, simple." The man nodded slowly. "Then we proceed carefully, no mistakes." Sloane smiled. "There won't be." There was a pause. Then she said something that made everything else irrelevant. "You know what the best part is?" she asked. The man looked at her. "She's already falling apart," Sloane said. "You should see her hand sometimes. Slight tremor, delayed reactions, it's subtle, but it's there." I looked down at my hands, then back at the screen. The symptoms of my condition. The side effects of my service. She was using them as a weapon. "All I need is a little push," she continued. What kind of push? The man asked. Sloane let out a quiet laugh. The kind where she can't function without those meds she carries around, she said. If those meds disappear, she won't hold it together for long. The man frowned. Be careful with that. You don't want to create liability. I'm not creating anything, she said. I'm just removing support. There it was, clear, intentional, planned. I'll make sure the bottle goes missing, she said. And when she starts shaking, when she starts hallucinating, we file emergency petition, immediate action. The man slowly closed the folder. That would strengthen the case, he admitted. Sloane's smile widened. Exactly. She leaned back again, completely relaxed. Just need one thing to go missing, she said. Then she laughed, soft, controlled, confident. If that little bottle disappears, she's done. I stared at the screen, every piece lined up, every step accounted for, every move intentional. Then she said the part she thought no one would ever hear. Once she starts losing it, Sloane said, the house, the accounts, everything. She tapped the desk lightly. Becomes ours. Silence. Then she added, almost casually, and she won't even understand what's happening. I powered the tablet down. I had everything I needed. No guesswork, no assumptions, just facts. I sat there for a few seconds letting it settle. Then I stood up, walked to the door, unlocked it. Because now it wasn't about what she might do. It was about what she already set in motion. And for the first time, I wasn't reacting. I was preparing. I walked downstairs like nothing had changed. That was the hardest part for most people, acting normal when you already know the outcome. I didn't go back to the living room. I took a detour through the kitchen, grabbed a glass of water, and stood there for a second, letting my hand loosen just enough. Then I let it shake. Not a lot, just enough to be noticeable. I watched the reflection in the window. Subtle tremor, slight delay when I lifted the glass. Believable. I set it down. Then I walked back into the main area. Sloane was exactly where I expected her to be, still in control, still performing. She looked up when she saw me, and this time she noticed. Her eyes dropped to my hands, then back to my face. There it was, interest, not concern. You okay? She asked, walking toward me. I didn't answer right away. I let my breath come out uneven. I'm fine, I said, but my voice didn't match. That got her. She stepped closer, studying me now. You don't look fine. I just need to rest. I turned slightly like I was about to walk past her. She blocked me. Hold on, she said. Sit down for a second. I hesitated, then I nodded slow, reluctant. I sat at the edge of the couch. My hands stayed visible, still shaking. Sloane glanced at my parents. You see this, she said. My mom looked worried now. Maybe we should call someone, she said. No, Sloane said quickly. Let me handle it. Of course. I kept my eyes down. Controlled breathing, slight delay in response time. Everything she had just described to that lawyer, I gave it to her on purpose. What are you taking? Sloane asked. Nothing, I said. That's not true. I didn't argue. She crouched slightly in front of me, lowering her voice like she was trying to help. You need support, she said. You can't keep doing this alone. I almost smiled. Not because it was funny, because it was efficient. I'm okay, I said again, weaker this time. No, you're not, she said. And pretending you are is only making it worse. My dad stepped closer. She does look off, he said. That word again, off, convenient. Sloane stood up. I've been looking into options, she said, just in case things got to this point. I didn't react. I just let my hand twitch slightly on my knee. What kind of options? My mom asked. Support plan, Sloane said. Medical oversight, temporary assistance with decision-making. There it was, clean language, harmless on the surface. You mean control, I said quietly. She turned back to me. I mean help, she corrected. You clearly need it. I looked at her long enough to make her think I was considering it. Then I looked away. I don't want that, I said. You don't get to decide that right now, she replied, calm but firm. That part was important, not emotional, authority. I'm still capable, I said. Are you? She asked. She didn't wait for an answer. She walked to the table and picked up a folder, same one from earlier. She brought it over and placed it in front of me. "These are just precautionary documents," she said. "Nothing extreme, just so we can step in if things get worse." I didn't touch it. "What kind of documents?" my dad asked. "Medical authorization," Sloane said smoothly. "Temporary financial management, insurance alignment." It sounded clean, safe, responsible. I looked at the top page, durable power of attorney. Of course it was. I let my hand hover over it, then I pulled back slightly. "I don't think I should sign anything right now," I said. My voice cracked just enough. Sloane leaned in. "That's exactly why you should," she said. "You're not thinking clearly." I shook my head. "I just need time." "You've had time," she said, "and look where that got you." My mom stepped closer. "Maybe it's just temporary," she said, "just until you feel better." I looked at her, then at my dad. He didn't say anything. He just watched, same as always. I let my shoulders drop slightly like I was giving in. "What happens if I don't sign?" I asked. Sloane didn't hesitate. "Then we have to take more formal steps," she said, "and that's not something you want." Threat, soft, controlled, but clear. I nodded slowly. "Okay," I said. Her expression shifted. Victory. She handed me a pen. "Just sign at the bottom," she said. My hand took it, and this time I didn't fake the tremor. I let it move naturally. I positioned the pen over the line, paused, not because I was unsure, because timing matters. I adjusted my grip slightly. Then I signed. Not my standard signature. Not the one on my ID, not the one on any civilian record. A variant, precise, intentional. A honeypot signature. The moment the ink touched the paper, the pattern was complete. Embedded markers, stroke sequence, pressure points. Invisible to them, not invisible to the system. Somewhere else, far outside that house, a flag would trigger. Not instantly, but fast enough. A financial anomaly tied to a classified identity. Automatic escalation, internal review, containment protocol. I finished the signature and set the pen down. Sloane took the document immediately, didn't even check it closely. She thought she already won. "Good," she said. "This makes things easier." "For you," I said quietly. "For everyone," she corrected. I leaned back slightly. Let my breathing stay uneven. Let my posture look unstable. Everything she wanted to see. "Get some rest," she added. "We'll take care of things from here." I nodded, didn't argue, didn't push back because this part wasn't about stopping her. It was about letting her finish. My mom touched my shoulder. "We're just trying to help," she said. I looked at her. "I know," I said. That wasn't entirely true, but it didn't matter anymore. Sloane gathered the papers, already moving on, already thinking ahead, already spending something she didn't actually have. I stood up slowly, let my balance shift just enough to be noticeable. Then I walked past them. No resistance, no questions, just compliance. Because from her perspective, everything was working. From mine, it had already flipped. I reached the hallway and paused for half a second, not to think, just to confirm. Then I kept walking because the moment that signature dried the system was no longer passive, and neither was I. That night stretched longer than it should have. The house felt different after the paperwork. Not quieter, just colder. I stayed in the guest room, didn't turn on the lights. I sat on the edge of the bed and kept my breathing controlled. The tremor came and went in waves now. Not constant, not obvious unless you were watching for it. Sloane was watching for it. That part worked. Around midnight, the storm started. Heavy rain against the windows, wind pushing against the glass. I stood up and grabbed my coat. The door opened before I reached it. Sloane didn't knock. She walked in like she owned the space. Behind her, my parents hovered in the hallway. She took one look at me and smirked. "Good," she said. "You're still awake." I didn't answer. She crossed her arms. "We're not doing this slowly anymore," she continued. "I already spoke to the lawyer. The paperwork is filed." "That was fast," I said. She shrugged. "When things are urgent, you move." I leaned slightly against the desk. "Urgent for who?" "For you," she said. "You're not stable. Everyone can see it." My mom nodded faintly. She hasn't been herself, she added. I looked at her, didn't respond. Sloane stepped closer. You signed the papers, she said. It's already in motion. I figured. Good, she said. Then you understand what happens next. I didn't ask. I didn't need to. She turned and gestured toward the hallway. Your things are packed, she said. I paused, not because I was surprised, because I wanted to see how far she would go. Packed, I repeated. She smiled. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, she said. You can't stay here. The rain hit harder against the windows. I walked past her and into the hallway. My parents stood off to the side. Neither of them met my eyes. At the end of the hall near the front door, my suitcase sat upright, zipped, closed, ready. I stopped in front of it. Then I looked back at them. You packed it, I asked. Sloane nodded. Basic essentials. You won't need much where you're going. Where am I going? She didn't hesitate. A care facility, temporary, until you stabilize. I almost laughed. Temporary, I repeated. Yes. I looked at my dad. Is that what you think this is? I asked. He shifted slightly. It's for your safety, he said. For my safety, I said. My mom added, we just want you to get better. I nodded once, slow, controlled. Then I picked up the handle of the suitcase. It felt light, because they didn't pack what mattered. Sloane stepped closer again. You should be thanking me, she said. I'm the one making sure you don't completely fall apart. I looked at her. You already made sure of that, I said. She smiled like it was a compliment. Exactly, she replied. Then she reached for the door and opened it. The storm hit immediately. Cold air, heavy rain, wind pushing straight into the house. She stepped aside. Go, she said. I didn't move, not yet. Please, Sloane, my mom said quietly. Maybe we should. No, Sloane cut in. This is happening. She looked back at me. You don't belong here right now. You need help and you're not getting it in this house. I held her gaze, then I stepped forward. The rain soaked through my coat almost instantly. I rolled the suitcase out onto the driveway. Water splashed up around my shoes. Behind me, I heard the doorframe creak under the wind. Then something hit the ground next to me hard. I turned slightly. Another bag. She had thrown it. Take everything, she said from the doorway. I don't want anything of yours left here. I looked at the bag, then back at her. Everything of mine, I asked. She didn't catch it or she didn't care. Yes, she said, everything. I nodded. All right. She stepped forward just enough to make sure I heard her clearly over the storm. Just so we're clear, she said, voice sharp. Now, no performance left. You're not coming back. You're done here. You're done pretending you're part of this family. My dad stood behind her, still silent, still watching. Then he did it. A small nod, agreement. That was enough. Sloane's voice dropped lower, colder. Go where you belong, she said. A facility, somewhere they can deal with you. She looked me up and down. Because this isn't normal. The rain kept coming down, heavy, consistent. I stood there for a second, not frozen, just still. Then she said it clear, loud, no hesitation. Get out, she said. You're a liability, a useless, unstable mess. She stepped closer to the edge of the doorway. You belong in a mental ward, she added. Not here. My grip tightened slightly on the suitcase handle. Not from anger, from timing. I turned away from her, took 2 steps forward into the rain. Then I stopped because this was the point. Not the argument, not the humiliation. The confirmation. Everything she said, everything she did, everything they allowed. Complete, documented, final. I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out the satellite phone. Small, durable, no branding. I flipped it open. No hesitation, no second thought. I pressed a single button. The line connected instantly. I didn't need to say who I was. They already knew. I spoke once, clear, even. Subject has completed the act of betrayal, I said. I paused for half a second, not for effect, for accuracy. Then I finished. Initiate phase 2, recover all secured assets. Silence on the other end, then a single response. Confirmed. The line cut. I closed the phone, put it back in my pocket. Behind me, the door slammed shut. They didn't watch me leave. They didn't need to. From their perspective, they already won. I picked up the second bag, adjusted my grip. Then I walked down the driveway into the storm. Not rushed, not lost, just moving forward. Because by the time the rain stopped, everything they thought they controlled would already be gone. The climactic revenge payoff. I dried off in a place that doesn't show up on maps. Not a hotel, not a safe house with a sign out front, just a controlled space with a locked network and no questions asked. I didn't sleep much, not because I couldn't, because I didn't need to. Phase 2 doesn't require emotion. It requires observation. By morning, everything had already started moving. I sat at a small table, a cup of black coffee untouched in front of me, and opened the tablet again. Secure channel, real-time feeds. I pulled up the house, exterior camera first. 2 black SUVs parked out front, unmarked to most people, not to me. Then I switched to the interior. Sloane was in the kitchen, still in yesterday's clothes, hair tied back but not styled this time. No camera-ready smile, no perfect posture, just irritation. She was on her phone. "I'm telling you, run it again," she said. "It's not the card." She paused, listening, then her expression changed. "No, that's not possible," she snapped. "Try the other one." She ended the call and immediately dialed another number. I watched her pace. Fast, short steps, control slipping. Good. She grabbed her wallet, pulled out another card, and walked over to the kitchen terminal. Tapped, waited, declined. She stared at the screen for a second, then hit it again. Declined. Her jaw tightened. "Are you kidding me?" she muttered. My mom walked in, still half asleep. "What's going on?" she asked. "My cards aren't working," Sloane said. "Maybe it's the system," my mom suggested. "It's not the system," Sloane replied. "I tried 3 different ones." My dad entered next. "What's wrong?" "Everything," Sloane said. "Something's locked." He frowned. "Locked how?" "I don't know," she snapped, "but I can't access anything." I leaned back slightly in my chair. This part always looks chaotic from the outside. From the inside, it's exact. Triggered flags move through layers. Financial institutions, federal oversight, internal military audit channels. Once it starts, it doesn't stop halfway. I switched to another feed. Front gate. A vehicle pulled up. Then another, all black, all quiet. Sloane didn't notice at first. She was too focused on her phone. "I need you to fix this now," she said. "I have payments scheduled today." Pause. "No, I don't care about policy, just override it." She hung up again. Then she saw them through the window. Her body went still. "What is that?" my mom asked, stepping closer. My dad moved beside her. 3 vehicles now, doors opening, people stepping out, uniformed. Not local, not private security. Federal. Sloane walked toward the front door. "Stay here," she said. My mom grabbed her arm. "Maybe we should." "It's fine," Sloane said, pulling away. "I'll handle it." Of course she would. She opened the door. The rain had stopped, but the ground was still wet. A man in a dark suit stepped forward. 2 others stood behind him, and behind them, a military medical unit. Sloane froze for half a second, then she smiled, the version she uses for cameras. "Can I help you?" she asked. The man in the suit held up a badge. "Federal agents," he said. "We need to speak with the occupants of this residence." Her smile didn't drop. "What is this about?" she asked. "Access," he said. Now no negotiation, no explanation. She hesitated, then stepped aside. They walked in without waiting. I switched angles, living room. They spread out immediately, efficient, controlled. One of the military officers spoke into a comm. "Site confirmed," he said, proceeding with recovery. Sloane turned, trying to keep up. "Excuse me," she said. "You can't just walk into my house like this." The agent didn't look at her. "Ma'am, this property is under federal review," he said. "Federal review," she repeated. "On what grounds?" No answer. My parents stood in the hallway now, confused, nervous. "What's going on?" my dad asked. Another agent stepped forward. "Sir, we need everyone in the main room," he said. "Why?" my mom asked. "For your safety." That word again. They all moved slowly. Sloane stayed in front, still trying to hold control. "Look," she said, "there's been some kind of mistake. If this is about my sister." "It is," the agent said. She stopped, then recovered. "Then you should know she's unstable," Sloane said quickly. "We were actually in the process of—" "Stop talking," he said, flat, no emotion. That hit her. She went quiet for the first time. A senior officer walked in, uniform, rank visible, not someone you ignore. Everyone else adjusted slightly when he entered. That told me everything I needed to know. He looked around the room once, then at Sloane. "Who handled a plastic medication vial last night?" he asked, direct, no buildup. Sloane blinked. What?" "A small unmarked container," he continued. "Clear plastic, no label." I watched her face. Confusion first, then recognition, then something else. "What is this about?" she asked. "Answer the question," he said. She hesitated, then laughed lightly. "Oh, that," she said. "That was nothing, just some trash she brought to the table." "Where is it?" She pointed casually. "I threw it away, it looked like garbage." Silence. The officer held her gaze. "Show me," he said. She frowned. "It's just in the bin," she said. "Why does it matter?" "Show me," he repeated. She walked to the side of the room, picked up the trash bin, turned it slightly. "It's probably still in." She stopped because the bin was empty. Of course it was. Collected hours ago, logged, secured. Her expression changed. "What?" she said quietly. The officer stepped closer. "That container," he said, voice controlled, "was not trash." Sloane looked at him, then at the empty bin, then back at him. "It was an experimental antidote," he continued. "Designation X109. No one moved. "Single-dose unit," he added. "Valued at $1.2 million. My mom covered her mouth. My dad didn't speak. Sloane stared at him. "You're joking," she said. He didn't respond. Instead, he stepped even closer. "That vial is classified military property," he said. "Loss, damage, or destruction of that asset constitutes a federal offense." Her face drained. "I didn't," she started. "You did," he said. She shook her head. "I thought it was just—" He finished. Silence. He let it sit there, then asked one more question. Clear, sharp. "Who authorized you to dispose of a classified antidote assigned to an active duty officer?" She didn't answer because there was no answer that worked. Her hands dropped to her sides. For the first time since I've known her, she looked exactly what she was. Unprepared. I adjusted my sleeve and stepped into the building without slowing down. No one stopped me. They already knew I was coming. The hallway was quiet, clean, controlled. The kind of place where every step echoes just enough to remind you where you are. This wasn't a place for opinions. It was a place for facts. I walked past two uniformed guards. They didn't ask for ID. They just nodded. Inside, everything runs on verification, not introductions. I reached the door at the end of the corridor and pushed it open. They were already there. Sloane sat on one side of the table, posture tight, eyes moving too fast. My parents were next to her. My mom looked overwhelmed. My dad looked like he was trying to stay composed and failing. Across from them, two federal agents and a legal officer. The room was silent when I walked in. Sloane saw me first. Her expression snapped into something familiar. Victim mode. "There she is," she said immediately, pointing at me. "That's her. She's the one you need to be talking to." I closed the door behind me. Didn't rush, didn't react. Just walked to the other side of the table and sat down. No one told me where to sit. I chose. Sloane leaned forward. "You have no idea what she's been doing," she said to the agents. "She's unstable. She's been hiding things, taking unregulated substances." "She didn't," one of the agents said. "She needs to be evaluated," Sloane continued. "We were already in the process of—" "Stop talking," he said. "Now." That slowed her down, not completely, but enough. She turned to me instead. "This is your fault," she said. "Whatever this is, you caused it." I looked at her, calm. "You threw away something you didn't understand," I said. "That's not what this is about," she snapped. "You're manipulating everything, you always do." I didn't respond because I didn't need to. The legal officer opened a file. "Miss Vance," he said, looking at Sloane, "you are here because of a confirmed breach involving classified material." "I didn't breach anything," she said quickly. "I didn't even know what that was." "That's not a defense," he replied. She shook her head. "This is insane," she said. "You're treating me like a criminal over a bottle of pills." No one corrected her. My mom finally spoke. "Can someone please explain what's happening?" she asked. The agent glanced at her. "We are in the process of doing that," he said. Sloane leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. "This is ridiculous," she muttered. "I know people who can clear this up in 5 minutes." I almost smiled, because I knew exactly who she meant, and right on cue, the door opened. Everyone in the room shifted, not dramatically, just enough. A man walked in, uniform, rank visible, authority without effort. General Sterling. Sloane stood up immediately. Relief hit her face like a switch. "Sir," she said, moving toward him, "thank God you're here. There's been a misunderstanding." She reached him too fast, too eager. "I was actually just explaining." He didn't look at her, not even for a second. He walked past her like she wasn't there. That's when the room changed. Sloane froze, her hand still half raised, confusion setting in. "Sir," she said. He didn't stop. He walked straight toward me. Every step measured, every movement exact. I stood up, not because I had to, because that's the protocol. He stopped in front of me. Then he did something Sloane had never seen before. He straightened, sharp, precise, and saluted. Full military form, clean, perfect. The room went completely still. "Welcome back to active status, Colonel Vance," he said. No hesitation, no doubt. Sloane's face changed, fast. "What?" she whispered. The general lowered his hand. "Your report was received," he continued. "Phase 2 executed without delay." I nodded once, understood. Behind me, I could feel the shift. My parents, the agents, everyone recalibrating because now the roles were clear. Sloane stepped forward again. "Sir, I think there's been a mistake," she said. "She's not." He turned slightly, not fully, just enough to acknowledge her presence. Then he spoke. "Miss Vance," he said, "you are not part of this chain of command." Her mouth opened, then closed. He turned back to me. "We've recovered all relevant evidence," he said. "Financial records, communication logs, and surveillance data." I didn't look at Sloane. I didn't need to. "Any anomalies?" I asked. "None," he said. "Everything aligns with your initial assessment." "Good." Sloane shook her head. "This is insane," she said. "You're taking her side without even." "This is not a side," the general said, cutting her off. "This is a matter of national security." That hit harder than anything else. National security, not family, not personal, official. My dad finally spoke. "Morgan, what is going on?" he asked. I looked at him, then at my mom, then back at the general. "You should hear it from them," I said. The general nodded slightly, then turned to the room. "Colonel Vance is not a civilian medic," he said. "She is a commissioned officer assigned to a classified biomedical operations unit." Silence. "She operates in environments where exposure risks are high and countermeasures are limited," he continued. "The antidote in question was issued specifically to maintain her operational stability." My mom sat down slowly. My dad didn't move. Sloane looked like she was trying to process a language she didn't understand. "That doesn't make sense," she said. "It doesn't need to make sense to you," the general replied. She pointed at me. "She never told anyone any of this." "That was not her responsibility," he said. Sloane laughed, short, unstable. "So what? She's some kind of secret agent now?" No one answered, because no one needed to. The general looked at me again. "Your family's involvement has been documented," he said, "including intent to exploit your condition and seize control of your assets." I nodded, understood. Sloane stepped back. "No," she said, "that's not." The legal officer said, opening another file. She looked around the room. No allies, no support, just facts. And for the first time, she realized something simple. This wasn't her environment. This wasn't a space she could control with confidence and tone. This was structured, verified, final. She looked at me, really looked like she was seeing me for the first time. Not the quiet one, not the easy target. Something else. Something she couldn't define and definitely couldn't control. I held her gaze for a second, then looked away because this part wasn't about proving anything. It was about finishing it. I tapped the tablet once and turned it so everyone could see. No build-up, no warning, just evidence. The first clip loaded instantly. The dining room, clear angle, no distortion. Sloane standing at the table, smiling for the guests. Then her hand grabbing the bottle. The sound of plastic hitting the trash. Her voice followed sharp and clean. "Look at this trash. You really brought this to my event." No one spoke. The room watched. Sloane didn't move. The clip ended. I didn't say anything. I just swiped to the next one. The study different angle. Sloane sitting across from the lawyer. Audio clear. "We just need consistency," the lawyer said. Then her voice. "She's already unstable. Everyone sees it." My mom covered her mouth. My dad leaned forward slightly. I let the clip run. "Once this is filed," the lawyer continued, "you'll be granted control over her assets." Sloane on screen nodded, and she can't fight it, not effectively. I paused the video. Silence held for a second, then I resumed, her voice again. "Substance issues won't be a problem." My eyes didn't leave the screen, because I already knew what came next. "All I need is a little push," she said. "Then if those meds disappear, she won't hold it together for long." I stopped the video, didn't loop it, didn't explain it. It didn't need help. My mom shook her head slowly. "That's not," she started then stopped. My dad looked at Sloane. "Is that real?" he asked. She didn't answer because she couldn't. I swiped again. Third clip close up, document on the table, her hand moving. Signature not mine, forged. The timestamp matched the night she said she was handling paperwork. I zoomed in. The pen stroke, the hesitation, the correction, sloppy, not mine. I let it play for a few seconds, then paused. "That's your handwriting," I said, not to accuse, just to confirm. Sloane's voice came out tight. "I was helping," she said. "You couldn't sign your own name." "You didn't give me the chance," I finished. She looked away. The legal officer stepped closer. "Forgery of financial authorization documents," he said, making a note. "Documented." Sloane snapped. "You're twisting everything," she said. "You set this up. You've been watching us like some kind of—" "Yes," I said. That stopped her. "I've been monitoring the house," I continued. "Legally documented under my clearance." She stared at me. "You recorded me." "I recorded threats," I said. The room stayed quiet. I switched to the financial logs, not video, numbers, clean, organized, projected onto the screen. "Trust account activity," I said. Dates, transfers, withdrawals, highlighted entries. Luxury purchases, travel, the car. Rick Sterling's name appeared again. My dad leaned closer. That's our account," he said. "No," I replied. "It's mine." He looked at me, then back at the screen. "That's not possible," he said. "It is," I said. "Every deposit came from operational pay." My mom shook her head. "All those years," she whispered. I scrolled further. A section marked mortgage paid, full amount timestamped. Same day I came back, my dad's hands dropped to the table. "You paid this?" he asked. "Yes." Silence. Sloane laughed, short, forced. "This doesn't change anything," she said. "You're still unstable, you still—" I cut her off. "You spent over $500,000 in 8 months," I said. She didn't respond. "You transferred funds to Rick Sterling," I continued. "You labeled it as investment. There's no return." He was building something, she said quickly. He was spending it, I said. The agent beside me opened another file. Those funds have been traced, he said. No registered business activity, no legal filings, no assets. Sloane looked at him, then at me, then back at the screen. No, she said. That's not right. It is, I said. My mom sat down slowly. All that money, she said. Gone, I replied. My dad didn't say anything. He just stared at the numbers, at the dates, at the pattern. And for the first time, he understood. Not what Sloane told him, what actually happened. Sloane shook her head. You're all overreacting, she said. This is just money, it can be fixed. No, the legal officer said. It can't. She turned to him. You don't understand. I do, he said. More than you think. He stepped forward, opened a separate document. This is a formal notice, he said. Based on collected evidence, you are being charged with multiple federal offenses. Sloane froze. Charged, she repeated. Yes, for what? She asked. He didn't hesitate. Fraud, forgery, financial exploitation. She shook her head. No, that's... And, he added, destruction of classified military property. That hit harder. Her voice dropped. I didn't know what that was, she said. You were informed to stop, he replied. I thought it was just... It wasn't. He held her gaze, then delivered it clean. You intentionally disposed of a critical antidote assigned to an active duty officer during an operational recovery period. Silence. No one moved. That action directly compromised her health, he continued. Given the known effects of withdrawal, this constitutes attempted harm. Sloane's face went pale. I didn't try to hurt her, she said. You planned for it, he said. I didn't look at her. I looked at the table because I already knew where this was going. The legal officer finished it. Based on intent, documentation, and outcome risk, he said, you are being formally investigated for attempted murder and acts against national defense. The words landed, heavy, final. My mom started crying. My dad didn't move. Sloane just stood there like the floor had dropped out from under her. This is insane, she whispered. This can't be real. No one answered, because it was. She looked at me, not angry this time, not confident, just lost. You did this, she said. I met her eyes. No, I said, you did. And this time, there was nothing left for her to argue. Reflective wrap-up. I buttoned the last button on my uniform and checked the mirror once. No adjustments needed. Everything sat exactly where it should. Clean lines, no wrinkles, no hesitation. I stepped out of the locker room and walked down the corridor toward the rear exit, boots hitting the floor in a steady rhythm, not loud, just precise. The base was already moving, people passing by focused, efficient. No one stopped me. A few glanced, most didn't. That's how it works here. Respect is quiet. I pushed through the final door and stepped outside. The air was sharp, clear. A helicopter sat on the pad behind the building blades, still, crew already in position. Ready. I walked toward it. Halfway there, I heard movement behind me. Fast, uncontrolled. Wait. I didn't turn right away. I let the voice carry. Then I stopped and turned. Sloane was running toward me. Not the version from the party. Not the version from the house. No makeup. Hair pulled back wrong, eyes red, steps uneven. She stopped a few feet in front of me, then dropped straight to her knees. I watched her, didn't move. Please, she said, voice shaking. You have to fix this. I didn't respond. They said I could be charged, she continued. This is serious, Morgan. You have connections. You can make this go away. I looked at her calm. This isn't something you talk your way out of, I said. She shook her head quickly. No, you don't understand. I didn't know what that was. I didn't mean to. You meant to remove it, I said. Her voice broke. I thought it was nothing. That didn't stop you. She reached forward slightly. You're my sister, she said. You're supposed to help me. I held her gaze. That's not what you said. She froze just for a second, then her expression shifted, desperate. I was upset, she said. I didn't mean it. You meant every word, I said. She swallowed hard. I can't go to prison, she said quietly. I won't survive that. I didn't answer because survival isn't a concept you explain. It's something you earn. Footsteps behind her, my parents slower, hesitant. They stopped a few feet back. My mom spoke first. Morgan, her voice cracked. We didn't know. I looked at her, then at my dad. He couldn't meet my eyes. We thought, he started then stopped. You thought she was the one holding everything together, I finished. He nodded slightly. I was wrong. I didn't respond. My mom stepped closer. Please come home, she said. We can fix this. We can make it right. I looked past them at the helicopter, then back at her. There's nothing to fix, I said. There is, she insisted. We're still family. I let that sit for a second, then I spoke. Family doesn't look like that, I said. Sloane let out a small, broken sound behind me. My dad finally stepped forward. We failed you, he said. I see that now. I nodded once. Yes, I said. No anger, no emphasis, just fact. My mom wiped her eyes. Give us another chance, she said. I looked at her, really looked. Then I shook my head. Good intentions don't cancel bad decisions, I said. She flinched slightly. I spent 15 years making sure this family stayed afloat, I continued. Not with words, not with appearances, with actual work. Neither of them spoke. You didn't ask where the money came from, I said. You didn't ask what it cost. My dad looked down. I know, he said quietly. I took a step back, creating distance. That's over now, I said. My mom shook her head. Don't say that. I'm saying it because it's true. I looked at both of them. Then I said it clearly. Kindness doesn't come with stupidity, I said. I paid my part with time, with risk, with things you don't even see. Silence. From this point on, I added, the name Vance doesn't define me. That landed hard, final. Sloane's voice came from behind me again, small. Please, she said, I'll do anything. I didn't turn because that part didn't matter anymore. I started walking again toward the helicopter. Each step, no hesitation. I reached the edge of the pad. One of the crew members opened the door. I stepped up and inside. The seat was already set, harness ready. I sat down and secured it. Through the open door, I could still see them. My parents standing still, Sloane on her knees. The same people, different reality. The door closed. The outside noise dropped instantly. The engine started, low at first, then stronger. The ground crew stepped back. Signals exchanged. The blades began to spin. I leaned back slightly, reached into my pocket, pulled out a small object, metal, worn edges, unit insignia. I held it in my hand, not for comfort, for focus. The helicopter lifted, slow at first, then steady. The ground pulled away, the base shrank, then the city beyond it. Buildings turning into shapes, then patterns, then distance. I didn't look back because there was nothing there I needed, only what I already handled. I looked forward at open space at what came next, and I kept my grip steady because silence was never weakness. It was preparation. And now the outcome matched the plan. If you've ever been the one people underestimated, the one who stayed quiet while everything built up, this story was for you. Do you think walking away was the right choice, or should she have given them another chance? Share your thoughts below and subscribe if you want more stories where patience beats noise. Remember, silence isn't weakness. It's preparation. And sometimes, the best revenge is simply letting people face the consequences of their own actions. See you in the next video.